back to the channel. Well, we just finished up the first season of Dune Prophecy, and Dylan's back here with me to discuss episodes 5 and 6. So I throw it to you, Dylan, to throw out some of your initial thoughts.
5 and 6 are real good. Six is gives some is like maybe the most satisfying of the series because of the answers that it gives. At least for me, I can finally sigh a breath of relief about some of my anxieties about the show. Um, and five was really good too. Uh, but yeah, I'm like I at kind of like my immediate thought is like I just can't wait for season two, even though I know it's not gonna happen for another like 3 years probably, like most TV shows now.
Right.
Maybe with it being like a 6 episode season show, that it'll be like 2 years.
2 years. I don't know. It's like, did they keep any of those sets? Who knows if they have to rebuild anything? I mean, a lot of it's CGI, I'm sure, but the
Yeah,
interiors surely, are in a soundstage somewhere. So,
yeah. I
we'll
know
have to know.
you've been like rewatching the episodes like as they come out and everything. I've just been watching it like as it comes out essentially. And so I'd be curious to kind of revisit and just kind of go through it now that it's like done,
Mhm.
and see, kind of think
The
back about how it.
foreshadowing kind of
Yeah,
thing. Because they've done
think.
a lot of, as you said before, they've done an awful lot of the eye. Everywhere you look, there's all these eyes, right? Things are
Yeah,
always shaped like an eyeball. The pool in the middle of the round room or whatever, there's just eyeballs everywhere. So, you know, the,
even the weapon that's killing people turns out to be hidden in Desmond Hart's eye. Like,
mm,
uh, it's clearly a very important uh symbolic image.
mhm,
Um, I know Denis Villeneuve, like the first thing that he crafted was like the sandworm, and his entire philosophy behind that design was to try to make it look like an iris, essentially.
mhm,
Because he thought that eyes in Dune are a very important image just because of
mhm,
the eyes of Abad. Um, and so I like that this show seems to kind of be leaning into that design aesthetic as
mhm.
well.
Yeah, you see it all over
Um,
those movies, even like when they're in the guest room of the Countess Fenring and she's seducing Fade, right? And when she walks in, there's this round shape on the wall, right, with little things in it. So it's supposed to be like, I guess, decoration or whatever, but it's still a round thing with like teeth coming out of it. It's like you see these round doorways with teeth all over the place, just like the with sandworms. And so here we've just seen like all these round things with pupils over and over and over again. So it's been kind of interesting.
yeah.
And
Um,
then it was interesting that the two eyes are really only one eye. The two blue eyes people are seeing and everything, but because I guess he's had his one eye removed from his skull, that he's seeing them from two different angles, right? So his brain is registering two eyes, even though there's only one there. That was kind of like, okay, that's a little interesting. But in episode 5 is where we get though a lot of the reveals on like, well, who Desmond Hart is, and what's kind of going on backstage at the Carino family, and
yeah.
arresting Kieran, and but
We
putting the suspensor cells. I'm still trying to figure those out. It's like if you're the suspensor cells, do not need to eat or defecate, or
yeah, what
it's just like
happens?
you're just hanging around in midair. Is it painful? Is it just like make you feel numb? Do you feel like it's holding
Are
you up
you
by
able
your,
to fall asleep at all? Like,
yeah, just sort of hanging there in the air, and it's like, and then what? I mean, that doesn't seem very practical. I mean, I love the floaty tech. That's one thing my husband's probably tired of me saying it, but every time we rewatch Dune and Dune 2, I'm just like, oh, the floaty tech. I love the floaty tech. Like in the
it's
beginning of
cool.
Dune 2, when they just sort of float down from their ship,
Yeah.
and then when they get to the rock, they can just float up like they're underwater and they're kind of pushing off the rock like a scuba diver would push off some coral or something. I love that technology. And here we're seeing it and they still have it. And it's so cool. We haven't seen it a lot, though. I mean, they're just using it to hold prisoners up in the air, but it's like whoever invented the suspensor technology at some point, they went with it, ran with it, and I love the visual of it.
Yeah.
So,
It is cool. Yeah, episode five, uh, definitely. It also kind of gives us a better idea of what the Empress's uh kind of motives are, and we
mm,
also get to see. I really like how conflicted her name is escaping me right now, but his concubine. from the
Francesca.
Sisterhood, Francesca. Uh, I like how conflicted she kind of seems. That she actually does seem to really love Hapako.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was kind of cool to see that relationship kind of develop and play out over the course of 2 episodes, which isn't much time really.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way that really worked for me, at least. That could have easily been something where you introduce like, oh, the concubine in like the last 2 episodes and it just falls apart.
Mm.
But yeah, it reminds me a little bit of like Lady Jessica and how she has her duties to the Bene Gesserit and her duties to uh, her husband and
Mm-hmm.
the conflicts that come from that, and eventually the duties that she feels she owes to Paul.
Mm-hmm.
And so Francesca kind of echoes that a little bit
Mm-hmm.
in a way that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, she was a cool character and she's already gone, but
yeah,
I really liked Mark Strong's performance, and I guess we won't get that anymore now that he's dead too. I thought for a while that episode 6 was just gonna be the slaughterhouse and we're just gonna lose like half the cast. And we didn't lose half the cast, but we did lose several.
yeah. I will say that losing Mark Strong is a big loss in a sense because he not to say that the other actors are bad because they're not. They're all doing great jobs, but Mark Strong really was like the standout performance to me in this, and it's like okay, he's gone now, and that's a little sad.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, again, the stuff that they have like Tula's actress and Valia's actress doing are really asking a lot from these actresses. Tula especially, where it's like this sense of purpose and duty and honor while also being incredibly vulnerable and a little afraid too. Um, like that sequence where they are discovering or was I think that was in episode 6 where they have the sister fight the virus and they
Mm-hmm.
kind of discover exactly what triggers it to activate. Um, like the performances between both of the actresses there are fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And we get some mention of the prana bindu, so when they can like really control every muscle
yeah,
fiber in their body, and she tries with the little hand gestures the way we had Inez do when she was trying to control her grief over Kasha's death. So you were seeing a little bit of more of their training that we don't really get in the movies. And of course they've lost their now sister slash Suk doctor. So oh well, I guess maybe just plant somebody else in the Suk school of medicine.
yeah. Uh, I thought maybe we were gonna finally get a some Space and Guild stuff in the last episode because it seemed like there was a lot of space travel going on, or at least ships, and still nothing. Maybe season 2.
Maybe season 2. We did get one mention of the Talaxu, only we got an old term for it, which was like Talaxin or
Yeah,
something like that. So it went by me until I've been watching. Before I rewatch the episode, I'll watch 2 or 3 of other people's rundowns and see what they thought of things. And someone did mention that, and I don't remember exactly how they pronounced it, but
yeah.
yeah.
I think it's like the school is Tleilaxu and like the planet is as well, but like the actual term for like their items is Tleilaxin. So it can be, I guess, a little difficult. It almost feels arbitrary when they use what.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's a Tleilaxin invention or oh, an invention of the Tleilaxu, and you're like, okay.
Mhm.
um, yeah. So brief little mentions there. At least they're getting some fanfare, so that's cool. They're definitely one of my favorite factions in the Dune universe, just because they're so kind of weird and different, and they're like they're considered like the outsiders of all of these other kind of factions where like the Bene Gesserit hate them because they're doing all of these genetic experiments that they consider to be abominations, and then everyone else is like horrified at the idea of bringing dead people back to life without any of their memories. um and I've also I like zombies, so I enjoy weird kind of necromancy stuff
Mhm.
in fiction. I think it's interesting. So yeah, the Tleilaxu are a favorite of mine, so I am very happy that they're getting any sort of fanfare. But I also really like the fish dudes in their
The fish speakers.
pods.
Yeah, or the third stage guild navigators.
Yeah, I wish they would show up. Maybe they're saving it for Dune Messiah, like a big reveal of what they are, but
Yeah, because Edric is a big
I understand that
shows up a
they're
lot.
probably expensive.
Well, the show is clearly expensive. I mean, you've got all these gorgeous costumes. Every costume is just gorgeous, and then the sets
And
and
yeah,
everything. It's just like these are. It's just so beautiful. I even watched like a 10-minute rundown of someone who does costuming and who talked about all the costumes and stuff and how. And they're looking at especially at like the acolytes and stuff, and they're wearing these. Looks green. She called it gray. I think they did a lot of color corrections. So it's hard to tell what colors really are, but
yeah,
um, I'll just go ahead and call them green, but they had these sort of green uniforms, and everybody's uniform is this lovely sheath dress, which everyone looks gorgeous in it. And they
yeah,
had but they're like fastened at the hip with these little, brooches, and they seem to flow just around these actresses just so beautifully. Every time they go upstairs or around a corner, and the dress is just sort of flowing around them. You're like, oh man, I don't even know what that material is, but it's gorgeous. And even the costuming person was pointing out, even when you see them being really simple costumes, they're often like embossed, where you just have these designs in them, but the design is just like embossing on the dress. It's not like thread or jewels or anything. But it adds another layer of detail and beauty. And so, yeah, they've been really great. Everything Italia's worn has been gorgeous. Um, and it just, I mean, it's just you see all this money on the screen.
yeah.
It's like they've just thrown all this money into the costuming and the sets and everything, and it's just beautiful.
And I mean, even in like just back to the very first episode, that like wedding ceremony
Mm-hmm.
dress is like, yeah, just gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and all of the like, and like the emperor's like costume is like just super well fitting and just looks nice
Mm-hmm.
and even how like Desmond Hart's costume changes over the course of the series.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, he gets like a more official imperial kind of uniform.
Mm-hmm.
Again, yeah, all of the
But
costumes are fantastic.
well, like the Empress, like when she comes to arrest her own daughter, for trying to get Kieran out of the suspensor cell. Now she's wearing something that's almost black. I think it was probably gray or navy, but it looks very uniformish, except for that it's another sheath dress, right? But it still looks like the same kind of material that the Emperor's suits have been made out of, and it has these sort of trimmings on it that make it look more military in style. And so she's like, they're even like doing things where she comes to, kind of step up and take some more decisive action. Now she looks more like a military person.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's been really great. I mean, so I don't know what kind of money they're spending, but they're spending a lot, and it's all up there on the screen.
yeah.
And they've certainly invested in some cast members who just are excellent actors. I mean, Mark Strong's face just showed everything, right? That he was so conflicted about things, and you could just see it running across his face.
Again,
Um,
how that scene where he's like, it's more than just one scene, but like as he's like realizing that he's just a puppet basically and always has been, is like you see like kind of the frustration, heartbreak in there, like, and the desperation too, because he's like he wants to live, he wants to be emperor, but then he just kind of realizes towards the end that like that's just not the reality of the situation of who he is or the piece that he plays in the game, basically.
mhm. Yeah,
Um,
in the Game of Thrones, he's really just been a pawn.
yeah,
The sister who's been telling him what to do, and his wife's been trying to tell him what to do, and he probably has some other advisors trying to tell him what to do, and then here comes Desmond Hart to tell him what to do. And it's just, he's never really been in control. And you even see it when he tells the guards to arrest Valia. The first time the guards just stand there. I'm thinking, oh, even the guards are in on it. But then the second time he's like, arrest her, they do it. But it's clear that they're not really sure if they're gonna obey him or if they have to obey him anymore. There's some uneasiness in the household guard on who's really giving the orders, and they're not sure that
yeah,
it's him anymore. So um, it's been really interesting with all the stuff with the story with the Carinos and what they're doing in the back there. That people haven't seen yet because we don't really get the word out about the emperor being dead by the end of the season, right? We have seen Natalia running off saying someone's killed the emperor or whatever, and then
Yeah.
and then we don't really go back to that again. So it's like at some point the news is going to get out, that that Habiko is dead. And then who's going to sit on the throne? Are we going to call Constantine back, or we just let the princess escape? And she's somewhere. We don't know where. She's left the planet. Um, who knows what they'll do? You just put the empress, I guess, as a regent, and she gets to run everything while the kids are off planet, maybe, and no one's officially the next emperor. Who knows?
I also do quite like the um oh man, I lost my train of thought in the middle of saying what I liked. That's frustrating. Um I like how much of the Carino stuff we're seeing because certainly with what we have from just the two Dune movies in this interpretation of the universe, it's like you only get the Emperor for like 10 minutes basically of like a almost 3 hour long movie and almost 6 hour long
Movie.
duology. Yeah.
Really.
Um, and so you don't get a lot of what the Carino kind of, and just the Imperial kind of like structure is like
Hmm.
their architecture, their clothes, their lifestyle, all of that. So I really like uh getting to see a lot of that in this show too. Um,
Yeah,
certainly
in the
seems
books,
like
you kind
that's
of have
going to
to get a
expand.
little bit out of Irulan's comments at the front of every chapter.
Yeah. Uh, certainly seems like we're going to get some scenery changes in season
Mhm.
2 because they're going back to Arrakis.
Yeah.
Um, also, I don't know if we've actually mentioned in recording yet the reveal of Desmond Hart as the son of Tula is pretty
Hmm.
great, and the kind of emotional, not necessarily resolution, but how that ends up going in the last episode is really good too. Um, again, the actress that plays Tula is fantastic and has to do a lot with
Hmm.
this conflicted duty to her sister while wanting to protect her son. Uh, in fact, there's that great kind of moment between the two of them uh, where you have Valia ask like what were you protecting him from, and Tula just kind of gives her a look.
Hmm. Yeah, and it seems to be kind of maybe what prompted Volley to say, "Well, I'll let him. You can choose what happens to him,"
Yeah,
and walks away. We had some great scenes with Valia. I love the scene where she's kind of like she tells Kieran and the princess to head on out. She's like, "I'll take care of this." You're like, okay, it's like 50-year-old lady in the really long dress is going to take on all these proto Sardaukar, but she just uses the voice, right? It's like kill yourself, defend me, and she just handing orders and just walking through the room, right? And around her, people just doing what she orders them to do. So it was actually a really cool scene, just the way she's just walking through this little battle that's going on, and even Desmond does what she says. So maybe he was incapable of resisting the voice without maybe having a chance to kind of like tense up or do some kind of own little mental exercise ahead of time. I don't know, but he does end up doing what she said. But then she doesn't kill him, and then but somebody stabs him. Is it she that stabs him? But he's there
yeah,
on the floor at the end, and then she's like, well, you get to choose. So Tula's gonna let him live, but and then they have a hug, which I was so sure that she was going to knife in the gut right there. I'm like,
yeah,
this guy's been so against the sisterhood. I mean, he doesn't sound like he, wants to meet his mother, that he hates her for abandoning him on Arrakis, although apparently she thought she was giving him to a good family. And so you'd think that as soon as he saw her, he'd be like, okay, great, mom, and just knifes her to death, but he didn't. And so that kind of surprised me, actually.
yeah. And it again, it says it gives you an interesting insight in his character that you know he might have some type of just innate bond with his mother where he can't bring himself to actually do that. Um, he's a really good character, and again, the actor for him is phenomenal too. Uh, in that scene especially. And then again, getting to see kind of his origin in a sense, which is still pretty hazy. There's still a lot of details to be figured out, but seeing the eye get like ripped out and like a thinking machine implanted into it from a first person perspective is utterly brutal. Um, but it was effective and it was cool and again, uh, satisfying to see as someone who really didn't want him to just have like a magic power that would just like burn people alive.
Mhm.
Um, it's not magic in a very sci-fi hand wavy way where it's like, yeah, he's got a computer in his brain which turns on a virus that people have.
Selectively,
It's
right?
yeah, it's maybe a little silly, and you could go, that's basically magic, but they went the extra mile of explaining what it is, and
Mhm.
I like that.
And you just got to go
Uh,
with it, right?
yeah,
And because what does Clark says that any way advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, right? So um, yeah, it looks like magic. It's just technology, but it's interesting that he's been subject to this technology. That clearly, whoever's moving the pieces on the board that Valia can't quite see is going to be somebody from the Machine Wars. It's either going to be Vorian or Atreides, or it's going to be one of these machines like Erasmus or whatever, who are still moving pieces around and they're secretly somewhere doing this. So that's like the Butlerian Jihad's not quite over yet.
yeah. Which I think it would be cool if this kind of becomes like more and more about just like the aftermath of the Butlerian Jihad and like
Mhm.
wrapping up some like insurgencies and stuff of because it's like like with most wars, it's like you don't just like go, all right, and now it's over. Like there's gonna be things that come through the cracks. So I would enjoy the show kind of going into some of that a little bit. I'm a sucker for robots, so even though I do like prefer like the original interpretation of Frank Herbert's thing of just being like an ideological movement, uh, I like Terminator. I'm here for any like robot war thing that people want to tell. Um, Even the Will Smith I Robot movie I liked a lot as a kid, at least. I haven't rewatched it in over a decade, I think, but
I mean, it's decent.
um yeah, so something about robots and zombies. I don't know what that says about me as being some interest of mine, but
Well, they're really not they have cool powers sometimes or they're really deadly, but they're not really the bad
yeah,
guy. Zombies are made, right?
yeah.
Nobody chooses to be a zombie in any of these movies or TV shows. It
It's like a
happens.
tragedy that
It
happens.
happens
Like,
to you. The actual person who's behind it is the bad guy, right?
yeah,
It's whoever developed the virus, or whoever's just Umbrella Corporation. If you're doing Resident Evil, whatever, and that is maybe one reason why zombie movies don't appeal to me. It's because like we start to focus so much on the zombies, and I'm like, yeah, but the zombies are just like the victims. I want to see them go after the bad guys.
yeah.
Let's go after the Umbrella Corporations, not just fight zombies for an hour and a half. But um, but also with then with the robots too. The robots were programmed to do certain things. So again, they're just like the victims here. They're following their programming, but who's programming them to kill or to whatever to go after Will Smith? So
Yeah.
there's
And then
always somebody behind them.
if their programming also is like to the point where like they develop emotions and stuff and it's like, yeah, like they're a victim and that's like weird. Like like I find robots like they can be very effective as like relatable
Mhm.
uh like characters in a sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm a sucker for the first two Terminator movies specifically. I
Hmm.
like as the ending of that movie being Arnold going like, I know now why you cry. It's
Right.
like, yeah, it's cheesy, but man, it gets me. Like
Hmm.
so yeah,
Yeah.
I'm down for exploring some robot stuff and I hope that they do. Just 'cause it'd be fun.
Yeah.
Um
I wish they left in that movie the scene at the garage where they do surgery on the Terminator and actually
yeah.
flip the read right switch so that it's capable of learning. Because at the end, when I watched the movie the first time, I'm like, yeah, it's just mimicking people so that so that John will feel better or whatever. But when I saw that scene in some like deleted scene thing, I was like, oh, I see, they really did have a scene which explains why it's able to learn later, like about why people cry and stuff. I can buy it now. But
Yeah.
when they cut that scene out, there was like, then you cut out the reason to believe anything the Terminator says. But
I believe it's
so
part of the director's cut, but yeah.
maybe. Um, so yeah, those are kind of the victim kind of things where I really want to see the main characters go after the bad guys and not the victims. But here we've just got, we don't know who the bad guy is, right? We're
Yeah.
still, Desmond Hart now is technically, I guess he is a victim.
I was gonna say Desmond Hart
He
is
was captured
certainly,
and genetically manipulated without consent.
yeah.
But now I'm thinking, wow, it's a virus and an airborne virus. So clearly everybody in the room in episode 4, when he burns up certain people, he is choosing who
Yeah.
gets the virus activated to them, right? So, he's in a room where everyone has the virus because they've all been in the same room with him, but only these 4 people are going to burn to death, right? So somehow he is able to activate only certain people's, the virus inside certain people, whoever he wants. So that's kind of intriguing on how he can determine who gets it
Yeah.
activated and who doesn't.
And again, it seems to, I don't know how something in his eye is like causing him to like bleed from his back.
I was just assuming that when he burns up other people, that the power is so great that it starts to burn
Yeah.
him too, and he has to recover from the
I
after effects.
assume, I mean, maybe they won't explain it, but I was gonna say, I assume this is something that they'll like get into with season 2. Um, but yeah, just I pretty impressed with the show, honestly, because again, I went in with kind of low expectations,
Mm,
and so like barreling into this last episode, I was like, I don't know how they wrap this up. And then thankfully they announced, like, I think the day before the
yeah,
episode dropped, that they will be doing a season 2. And I was like, okay, I can breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief. Let's see where this goes now. And then, yeah, they don't wrap up a lot, but again, they give just enough that it's satisfying. And I'm excited to see like what happens with Lila because she's
right.
been,
Now we have Mother Dorothea back.
yeah, and Mother Dorothea's back and like leading a new found cult basically, which to be fair, the Bene Gesserit are already basically a cult. um very very interesting stuff going on.
And that actress is amazing too, because when she was Lila, she's so mousy and with kind of withdrawn and so kind of scared and then when
Yeah.
she's Raquella or when she's Dorothea, she's so commanding. And it's
Yeah.
just like she just, there's no mystery that she's a different person, right? And so I think she's been doing a great job too.
Yeah. Like again, like just the whole cast is pretty great. Um
And maybe I still think Kieran is really boring, but maybe if he gets something to do, we'll see some range from that actor. But right now it's just
yeah.
like he gets to like just wander around and look maybe vaguely miffed, I suppose. you know.
Yeah, he really doesn't get a lot to do. Which is a shame because I like the Atreides. I like Duke Leto and I like Paul. I think they're interesting characters. Same with Leto the Second and everything. So it's a shame to get an Atreides that is so boring in a sense. Like he's just kind of there. I can't even say that he's bad. It's just it
Whatever.
is what it is.
Yeah. Well, we just got all these characters who are so fascinating. Both of the Harkonnen women have these backstories that have just been
Yeah,
very intriguing. And now we have a face dancer, and and I'm not sure that she was used to the best. I mean, is she under arrest now? Is she dead now? Because she pretended to be a guard, and then she stabs um, a heart, right? So,
yeah,
but then what happens to her, we don't know. It doesn't seem like maybe Valia got much use out of her, really, when it push came to shove. But and then we get all the stuff with Mark Strong's Emperor, and when you're up against the people playing Volume and Tula and the Emperor and the Emperor's wife and Desmond Hart, and even Sister Avila and Lila. And you just got these characters who are so strong and well defined, and the actors are so great. And then the sword master is kind of like, well, we had a sword lesson, ching 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 ching, and then that was in my scene, So we really haven't, even if he's the best actor ever, I really haven't been able to see him have that chance to do all the others have had to do so far, and really give that all those layers of depth to their characters.
Yeah.
So, okay, any final thoughts before we head on and just start praying that we're going to be see season 2 before we die?
Yeah. Yeah, again, I'm just kind of really surprised by it. Happily so. Um it was a fun season. I like I'm not much of a TV show guy, but I like the week to week thing, specifically like whenever you're theorizing about what could possibly happen in the next episode, kind of a thing, where it's like, yeah, I understand that people really like to binge, and I understand the want for the next thing like immediately, but part of the fun of the show for me in particular was like the constant speculation of like, oh well, what is this character's backstory and their deal and motivation. I wonder if we'll find out next episode, and then we'll get some other piece that makes me think about something else. It's a fun little ride.
And they know how to end the episodes, right? We end an
Yeah.
episode on the scene of a face dancer. We end the episode learning who Desmond Hart's parents are. And they're like, you stopped the episode, right?
Yeah. And yeah, they kind of they knocked it out of the park with this. I'm looking forward to season 2. I'll miss Mark Strong, but
Mm,
I'm excited to see whatever Desmond Hart does.
yeah. And what's
Especially,
Valia going to do with an Atreides on Arrakis?
yeah, what's going on Arrakis? How much Fremen stuff are we gonna get? How developed are the Fremen gonna be?
Yeah, I'm going to be a little
Um,
disappointed they're really well developed, because it's like they got 10,000 years before they, what they are in the
yeah,
Dune book. So I really don't want to see them being just like those Fremen.
yeah,
They should be more recent arrivals on Arrakis. I wasn't even sure that they had gotten to Arrakis by 10,000 years before Paul. I thought they might still be like wandering around with the Zen-Sudi wanderers,
yeah.
um, but at
They are
least
supposed to be
don't
like a recent development, but the show kind of so far has just treated them as like
they were
how
natives or
you
something. Yeah.
just like how
Yeah.
you expect the Fremen to be treated at the point that Paul is, where it's like, oh, these mysterious people that are like weird and hardy.
And I hope that
Um,
the planet isn't quite as deserty, because even in the movies where Stilgar's saying the Lisan Al Gaib will bring back the trees, he'll bring back the water, as if they remember this, and it's like they can't
yeah,
possibly remember it, but surely it's more recent than 10,000 plus years ago, right? That surely there's at least some areas of the planet that were green or lush up to a few thousand years before Paul. Maybe not the whole planet, but some of the planet, surely. So
I
that
would like to
people
see.
have some kind of memory of, oh yeah, my great 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 grandmother lived by an oasis and there were palm trees and whatever. And
Yeah,
those stories have come down the generations from my grandparents. Um, and now Lisa and Gabe will bring all that back. It's a little harder to buy if, yeah, my 10,000 plus years ago, we were told that there might have been trees on this planet at some point. We don't really,
yeah,
but it just seems like it can't all be just like it is in Dune.
certainly. Yeah, and again, I would like to see that just because it would emphasize the change that has happened over 10,000 years. Like the fact that
Mhm.
Seleucus Secundus isn't a
Right,
nightmare storm planet is really cool.
right.
Um,
That we still seem to have
and
some technology like this room where they make the acolytes do the agony, which looks very clean and antiseptic and
yeah,
very, futuristic in a sense. And they haven't regressed quite as far.
it's a very different room than what Jessica had to go through, but that
Mm,
might just be because they were Fremen.
mm.
But yeah, I really enjoyed the show and especially these last 2 episodes.
Right. I did too. I'm looking forward to more. So, Dylan, you're always welcome to come back and we'll talk about something else. I don't know how you feel about other kinds of movies, and TV shows, but we'll find something else to talk about, I'm sure.
Yeah,
And those of you who've been watching to the end, we appreciate it. If you have comments or agree or disagree with us, there's always a comment section down below, and so you can hit like and subscribe, and even that little that little button there that'll tell you when I upload more videos, which is depending frequently or infrequently, depending on if I get people to come on with me. And also, I'll just put it on here. I would like to have you on here, whoever you are. If you want to talk about some TV show or a movie or your favorite hobby or something, I would, just contact me and let's get you on here and talk about the things that you're passionate about. Because I've got quite a few playlists, and some of them are just to talk about people's passions. It might be cooking, or it might be, I don't know, scrimshaw, whatever it is. Let's hear about it and why you love it and why you're so passionate about it. So you're invited to be on the channel. Just go ahead and ask me to come on, and we'll try to figure something out. So, but until then, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.